like a courtroom drama, you're gonna like it. You like kind of political intrigue, you're gonna like it. You like men's adventure fiction like you and me, you're gonna like it. Guys, welcome back to another action-packed episode of Men's Adventure Fiction Podcast. We're gonna have some fun tonight, as you can tell. We got an absolute stud over here with Nathaniel Hummel, decked out to the nines, as always, dressed in character for the topic of the day. Before we begin and before he introduces the topic, just want to say again, thank you to the community. We love to say thank you guys for what is being built on the Discord from you guys. It is amazing. It is incredible. Things are... there's never been better in the Discord. There's always conversation, always great debates, people sharing this and that, and I just love to see it. I love to see this thing grow. We love to see you guys in the comments, and we appreciate you. So thank you. And if you do want to chat with us directly, we're in the Discord, so join up and we'll talk. Nathaniel, you want to give them a little clue in on what we might be talking about?
Yeah, let's. Today we're talking about something that's very near and dear to both of us, on two fronts, really. Also, some of the best TV, honestly, just the best cinema that's ever been made, and that's going to be Daredevil. And also, maybe there's going to be a special guest appearance, but we won't spoil that until later in the episode. But I'm not going to dress like a character the whole time, or am I?
That's too good, dude. The perfect glasses.
You gotta stay ready for it. But this show, I don't remember who told me to watch it, but it was after it had been out for like maybe a couple weeks, and just phenomenal. Daredevil season 1 came out sometime in the mid 2010s on Netflix, loosely tied to the MCU, but it's just an incredible show.
Yeah, man. I was thinking about that today, where I think we've kind of forgotten the impact or how massive of a shift that was tonally for television shows about superheroes when it came out. Yeah. Because I was trying to rack my brain, like, what would have been out at that time? Like, Arrow would have been the best, maybe?
Yeah.
Flash. Like, I never watched The Flash. I know it had a big reception. Like,
yeah.
There was nothing like it. And then that opening sequence, dude, I can still picture myself in the living room watching it as a younger kid, where he's just gadoosh, 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 punching that guy's face in. You're like, whoa, what? And then the theme song hits, and it's just, whoa, that was amazing. Like, that was just so sick. I was blown away from right then and there, dude. So yeah, what a show.
I know, and this is our first foray into anything that is in the superhero realm. We've kind of touched on it here and there. Talking about the pulp influences of different superheroes and everything like that. But this is the first time we're actually going to spend a whole episode talking about superheroes. Although, let's be honest, the only thing that... in this new show, Daredevil Born Again, very good so far. I think we're at time of recording. And the time this goes live, I think it'll be episode 5 that just released. Right now, I think we're at 4. They're really kind of like honing in on his heightened sense of sound and hearing and all that, which is talked about a lot, but he's blind. That's why why he's always wearing glasses. But he really is, and this is what's so cool about it, is that it's very light on the superhero side of things. It's so much just martial arts, boxing, really good fight scenes, really practical effects. So it definitely falls into everything that we love about the men's adventure fiction genre. 100%. I don't think there's a question about it being a men's adventure fiction story.
Yeah, it is pure men's adventure fiction, and I think that's one of the reasons we haven't really dove too far into superheroes. Not that I don't appreciate and love like Thor and all that kind of stuff. I do. But more traditionally with the genre we love and what we're doing here with Men's Adventure Fiction Podcast, Daredevil and a few other people who might be mentioned in this episode, they fall more in line with the genre, how we like to see it, I think, at least. I don't want to speak for you, but I like it a little more grounded. I like the further we can get away from the CGI in any movie, I like that. And so, like, the hallway fight comes to mind from the original series, and just some of the more, I guess, gritty, for lack of better terms. But I love the realistic take that they have with Daredevil. I know that in comics and even in some of the scenes in this newer one, he can get a little more out there and a little more close to MCU level superhero, which is fine. But I like my flavor of Daredevil over here, with the grounded nature of it. And another perk I would say that Daredevil has is there's so many different storytelling attributes to it, I guess, that are all heightened to max level that anybody can really get into it. You like a courtroom drama, you're gonna like it. You like kind of political intrigue, you're gonna like it. You like men's adventure fiction, like you and me, you're gonna like it.
So you like gangsters?
Gangsters. Even I don't know what you would classify these as, but like Catholic guilt stories, I've heard them called and stuff like that, like religious themes and stuff.
There's a whole like season and a half of just like ninja type stuff. So it really just like runs the gamut of everything you could want. That's so good.
Also, I blame you for the run the gambit thing. I have never used that phrase ever, and then on Monday I was like, I said that 3 times today. Where's that? That's got to be from you. Now that I heard you say it,
that's funny.
It's got to be in the thing. Mark slipping it.
I must have. I don't even know what it means. I think it's. Oh well.
I don't even know if I'm using it.
Yeah, I think so. To circle back to what you were saying about grounded, I think that that's really a good point, and we've talked about this before in other episodes, specifically about how much I dislike when they don't just give you a regular character. There always has to be something crazy going on. It's like, okay, well, let's do a treasure hunting thing, but have all the bad guys be like elephants. Like no one will see that coming, or like, and I feel like this is kind of the curse of the superhero. Whereas before there were characters who were people, who were attainable, but for some reason someone was like, I think that's too easy. Let's like make a Superman character, which like, don't get me wrong, Superman's cool, but I find that anytime that you have this sort of thing happen, I find that the characters get a little more hard to relate to because they are so like perfect and unattainable to. I really like characters that have heart and flaw, but also are able to push past that and be someone that you can aspire to be. And that's why I feel like this show knocks it out of the park, because Matt is a very real person.
Dude, yeah, you hit on it perfectly. I think what is going on with what we like so much about it is we are always talking about ideals and men needing heroes, boys needing heroes. And what is he called? Like the man with no fear, right?
Yeah.
Is that his like moniker or whatever?
Yeah, for sure.
It's that concept of this is a guy. This is a regular man who has to step into this world that no one else is willing to. And he might, I mean, they kind of even touched on it with the White Tiger.
Yeah.
They kind of came with that same thing, like without his amulet, whatever, like he's still going to step in because it's the right thing to do. I love the concept of Daredevil where he's the man without fear. He's going to face his fears. He's going to go through and take care of what he has to, take care of who he has to, because no one else is going to step into the fold. Like he's going to protect everybody, and he doesn't have, oh, I've got Thor's hammer, I'm golden. You know what I mean?
Right.
I've trained, I've tried, you know? I love that. It's his own will, it's his own drive that's bringing him into the brink rather than superpowers.
Right. Right.
Sick.
And this is kind of like where it is a bummer that he's blind, because otherwise you just have like an incredible crime thriller genre vigilante story, and that would be so cool.
He's got that touch of supernatural.
Yeah, he does
sonar hearing and stuff.
Which is cool. It is cool, and I'm not going to knock the show for that because he's a superhero. But to that point, it is like this is as real as it gets, and it's very enjoyable because of that. Thrilled that they brought it back. I remember, so they had 3 seasons. The first season was really kind of Matt finding his way, bouncing back and forth between, like you said, a courtroom drama and then like more of an action adventure thing. And then the second season introduced the Punisher.
Yeah,
and it also introduced Elektra. And that one took 2 kinds of diverging paths. One was like very hyper realism, dealing with like PTSD and the stuff that comes from that, and the military, and introducing one of the greatest actors in a role of all time with John Bernthal as the Punisher. And then the other side was a very kind of like, people are coming back from the dead almost, with Elektra and the Hand, I believe it's called. So really interesting to have those two kind of like as a juxtaposition to each other. But I think this can bring us to our second subject of the night. You want to lay it on him?
Yeah, dude, the Punisher is my favorite fictional character of all time. So I'm excited to talk about him, and I do love the use of the Punisher in like the Daredevil like TV universe.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's happened in the comics. I haven't seen too much of it, but like they've got such a great chemistry, such a great dynamic. They push and pull so perfectly. From a writing standpoint, it's so cool to see the different philosophies kind of played out and worked against each other. I love it. So yeah, season 2 highlight for me was Punisher. Every time that dude was on screen, like going through the medical unit, at first when he comes in, you see him taking out a dude, see him in the courtroom flipping out, seeing him destroy everybody in the jail fight.
I know, dude.
It's so good. He's just so sick. It was so good. And I don't know how much we want to jump around and like where we're going now, but where we talked about just before we recorded, seeing him in this newest episode for us, which was episode 4.
Yep.
Dude, he's just, you can tell he's hit a groove. Like he's found that notch and he fell right into it.
Yeah.
And he did so well with the role this time. Not that he hasn't before, but you can tell he's just, dude, Johnny on the spot with it. He's just ready to go. He's crushing it. It's so nice and satisfying to see him back in the role. I cannot wait for that special they announced.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, I agree. I remember literally the first date my wife and I went on, I tried to get her to watch the first episode of Daredevil, and 2 minutes in, she's asleep. Because it's just, it doesn't start necessarily slow, but it starts slower for her when she was tired. And so then we kind of tabled it for a while, but then I was like, you've got to watch The Punisher. But we can't start with The Punisher season 1. We got to go to Daredevil season 2. So the first bit of Daredevil she ever watched was Daredevil season 2, just to watch the Punisher's arc. So that was able to backdoor me into getting her to watch the rest of Daredevil. And so to your point, it really is a show for anyone, because like you said, there's so many engaging things outside of just the action, but then it also has some of the best action that's ever been filmed in history. I mean, for the Western short film competition coming up, I was talking with a guy who I challenged to be a part of it, and he's totally in. So sick. If you're watching this, don't miss your chance to sign up for the Western short film competition. You have till July 1st to get your thing shot and submitted. So that's still probably close to 100 days, right?
Yeah, just around like 90-ish days, to do 15 minutes. You got it.
Think of it, like I said, think of it as a 24-hour film festival. That means you got like 90 24-hour film festivals.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you got 90 chances of that.
Yeah, you can do this for sure. And I was talking with him about it, and he was telling me about his plot and his whole idea, and talking about a fight scene. And then we were talking about best fight scenes to recommend, and I immediately sent him the one of the hallway fights. So I think in each season there's a fight in a hallway that's a one take of some kind. And the first one was, I think, on the stairs, and then the second one was actually, I think, just in a hallway, and then the third one is when he goes to the prison and they drug him and he's not in his suit, and it is probably my favorite. I don't know, it's close to my favorite fight scene of all time. So sick.
Yeah, man. Those scenes, I feel like, started a revolution, and there were so many more one takes, and like,
yeah, for sure.
Big hallway type. I mean, it might be the reason that No Time to Die had one. You know what I mean?
I think so. I think so.
It was too similar. They were too similar, in my opinion. But man, back to the engaging and two sides of the coin, not just action. Because my dad, he loves action for sure, but he's always said, and has always brought up, if I bring up a movie, like he says I need like a certain amount of story, and I need more going on than just action, or I'm not really gonna
Right.
be involved or invested. So for individuals like my dad, like that, you know, Daredevil has that in droves, and particularly I'm thinking of season 3, which I think stood out as one of my favorite seasons, if not my favorite season of that show, where
Yeah.
I just love the philosophical conflicts they're able to like shoehorn in there and do it in the way that you and I always talk about it. Like sometimes when stories like to get, oh, we're going to drop some philosophy on you, it's so boring. You do it so heavy-handed, and you're like, okay, what is this? But they do it, I don't know, they just weave it into who he is as a character, and it's these moral dilemmas, and the introduction of, do we care about spoilers too much?
Nah. It's like 5 years old.
Yeah, spoiling season 3 a little bit, just vaguely, is like the introduction of Bullseye and how they use him, and this kind of like public perception of him, and
Yeah.
kind of putting a mirror in front of who he is, and him questioning who he is, and him in the church training and questioning his faith and questioning who he is as a man. Like that stuff to me was peak Daredevil. I love it.
Yeah.
That to my worry is I like my Daredevil. Like the more Christianity you can give my Daredevil, the better for me. Like I want
Yeah.
I want so much Christianity in my Daredevil story, or Catholicism for his
Right.
sake. I want it up here. If you dilute it and he's not that Catholic, then it takes away from what that character is to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's a huge part of his dilemma and what he's dealing with. But
Right.
I digress.
Right. And well, it's so powerful, and I think that that's why the show is so compelling, is because you have these two sides of him, right? You have one side is a lawyer who believes in the system, and also a Catholic who believes that there are rules that have to be followed and you have to stick to them. And then the other side is the system is broken, and I'm sure that he probably has to be looking on characters in the Bible who kind of went above and beyond to make sure that justice was served. So it's a very interesting dichotomy that is even more poignant when you bring in Punisher in season 2 and the back and forth between the two of them. And it's just, like you said, so engaging. And I think that's something that really is so powerful to me about this, and something that I think you do very well in your stories. And I think that's something that's almost often glossed over in men's adventure fiction, and kind of why it gets a bad rap is people are like, oh, well, there's no real substance there, right? Like it's just popcorn cinema, or it's just an engaging story, but the stakes aren't that good. There's no real like moral thing that could be taught. You're literally just watching something so your brain can check out. But this show has all of the things that you love from those popcorn movies, but then it also has this incredible moral challenge that's going on, this deep thought, the idea that a man has to stand up for what he believes in, either in your faith or your actual like morals or your job or whatever it is. Like across the board, it literally covers everything. So I think that it's so cool to have something that is, I mean, first of all, an action movie or a superhero movie will almost never be nominated for an Oscar. But I feel like Daredevil, if it was a movie, if this was like a 3-hour long movie, it would almost 100% be nominated because it is that good, right? Like, I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, man. And think just talking about him and knowing that we were going to do this episode and thinking more about Daredevil, he's like really rising the ranks for me as far as favorite superheroes. Because of how well written he is. When you really sit back and look at it, he's so well written. When you mentioned the lawyer thing, how cool is that? Like you literally have the two sides of the system. Like I'm working by day trying to do the right thing, be a lawyer, put people behind bars and stuff. And then by night I'm smashing dudes in the face if they don't go behind bars. Like it's amazing. I love that they do that. I love that his dad was a boxer and kind of his origin story there. I love the ninja stuff with Stick, like you were saying. He kind of goes full Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for a little bit as far as training.
Which I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was very much based off of Daredevil and Stick in the hand.
I've heard
because
the same ooze made them, yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot that that's the thing, right? And they have they have the foot, right?
Instead of the
is their
hand.
main bad guy. So they got Splinter and Stick, and then the hand and the foot, and the same. Crazy. is
Teenage Mutant
is
Ninja Turtles, Men's Adventure
Men's
Fiction.
Adventure. For sure, for sure.
And
Sorry,
more
back to what you're
connections
saying.
going down the rabbit hole, dude. Raphael in the weird, like, Michael Bay ones is Reacher. You know?
What?
Yeah.
No way. No way. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail you. You were saying you love the ninja stuff with
Yeah,
Stick and all that.
Yeah, so I think he's just such a well-written character, and, the Catholicism, I already touched on why I like that for him as a character, but then him, like, being in Hell's Kitchen and going by, like, the devil, it's very cool. It's just, there's so much coolness going on with his character. It's just a cool factor. It's cooler than Batman, like, on just a cool factor. Like,
right.
His costume, I like Daredevil's better. I'm not saying I like Batman or Daredevil one more than the other. I don't know how I feel yet.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I do like the costume for Daredevil better. And I do
sick.
like the Catholicism and just the aesthetic and the boxing background. I like a lot of stuff about Daredevil's history and his writing better than like Batman's. But I don't even know where I'm going with that.
Well, the other thing, too, is Batman is I feel like so overdone at this point. Like, I love Batman. Don't get me wrong. Batman is a very cool character. But I've seen Bruce Wayne's family get killed like 90 times now. And I think that's something that at least has been done better for Daredevil versus Batman would be, and we talked about this a lot with Spencer, it's kind of that control of the emotions, right? Like, Batman, most of the time, the whole concept is like rage and anger, and he's usually very like, I'm going after these people because I'm pissed. One of my very good friends was like, he mentioned this to me years ago. He said, like, Batman's sometimes no better than his opponents because he's just totally ruled by his passions. And so to flip the, like you said about the mirror thing with Bullseye, just to put the mirror on Batman of Daredevil, who is like he knows that has his passions, but his faith is keeping those in check. He wants to kill Fisk the whole entire time, but he knows that he can't cross that line. He wants to just like fully commit to being a crime fighter, a vigilante, but he knows that he has to try and stick to the system. So it's really cool to see him learn who he is and learn how to curb his passions and be truly the man that he needs to be for the city and for those that he loves. I think that's really good. I do have this will open a whole can of worms, and it'll also be a good opportunity to dive more into Daredevil. But something that I have something I have a very challenging time with. Not necessarily, I don't know in real life, I've never been faced with it, but especially in storytelling. And you mentioned Arrow, and Arrow is a prime example of this. The first 1 or 2 seasons of Arrow were some top tier TV. It was so much fun, and I think all the time that I should rewatch it. But the first season, he was very much like just killing people left and right. And then I think halfway through the second season, I can't remember, it's been so long, he was like, I can't be killing people, that's not right. And then what would happen is, and this is spoilers for Arrow, is he would never kill the bad guy. In the next season, they would come back and they'd like kill his family or kill someone super important to him. And it was always so challenging to watch because it's like, no, sometimes, and this gets into like the depth of a hero. It's like sometimes I think the hero, and I think we talked about this before in another episode. Sometimes the hero has to take it on themselves. One of the responsibilities of choosing to be a hero is that you are going to have to do something you don't want to do, like perhaps killing the bad guy so that they don't show up and ruin everyone else's life. Like it's a line that's crossed and it's hard to deal with. But as the hero, you have to be able to accept that so that you can save other people, right? Because and that's kind of what happens in Daredevil also, where he doesn't do what he needs to do, and his family members or his friends are put in harm's way much more because of it. Which Punisher never misses an opportunity to kill someone, so he's very much the opposite side of the spectrum there. But what are your thoughts on that whole conundrum?
Yeah, dude, there's a story that comes to mind that I was thinking about a lot as we were talking about this episode coming out and recording it. It's it still sticks out to me, dude. This was, I don't know. I was just leaving high school, I think. So like 2015 or so for me. And me and Dom were on vacation together. And we were in line for a movie at the theater. And for some reason we got on this topic. And it genuinely turned into like a passionate like argument. And like we were pissed. And it like ruined the day a little bit. But it wasn't necessarily Punisher Daredevil, it was Punisher Batman. But it was the same exact thing of like, you should not kill the bad guy, is like what Dom's stance was. And I was like, dude, you have to kill the bad guy. What are you talking about? And I was like, the Punisher makes way more sense than Batman. And then it just like devolved into that real conversation of like, if you kill somebody, then like, you're not giving them a chance to, get rehabilitation, and you're saying that there's no good in people, and I'm like, well, some people prove that they're not good and murder them. So we got in this big thing, but it was a real life example of how kind of touchy or how real this depth is. And to go back and play to the writing of Daredevil, if you want to see how this is more than just an action show, watch that rooftop scene, with Daredevil chained up and the Punisher talking to him when he's like, you're like playing, he says some cool lines, like you're playing schoolyard bully or something, beating up the boys on the playground, they come back, and he's like, when I hit them, they stay down. It's such a great, and I'm the whole time just, Punisher fanboying out, just eating my popcorn, like, yeah, get him, Frank, stupid idiot, stupid Daredevil. And then, I'm sure there are people on the opposite side who are like, just look at this Frank fool, this is ridiculous, this guy. And, Dom is one of those people. At least he was. I don't know, I have to check in with him and be like, where are we at with this Daredevil and Punisher a bit. But, I love that they were able to find a character that is polar opposite, hits the exact, antithesis of that philosophy of a hero, and it makes you, the audience member, question and get into your own, what do I feel is right? What do I believe? And that it goes back to the power of story in general, and why I say fiction is just as important to read as nonfiction. It's like there is meat and potatoes in this stuff. There is stuff to be sought and explored if you allow there to be, if you actually put time into it, which I advocate for.
certainly put time into it. Dude, that's a really good, and this is what's cool, is that it is such an engaging topic, right? And it's interesting too, because there's two sides to it, right? Like there's the one side of what's good for the story, and then what's good for real life, and are they the same thing? How different are they? I don't know. It's a tough question. I think that oddly enough, dude, I went on a hiatus from Tarzan, and I just listened to Tarzan Book 3, which is The Beast of Tarzan, which is an absolutely nutso book, dude. He basically makes an army of apes and a leopard, and they just do his bidding. Yeah, crazy. So with this as the background, at the end of the book, Jane gets kidnapped, and I don't want you guys thinking that Jane's just like a hopeless damsel in distress, because she's actually like a total badass. Edgar Rice Burroughs writes women so well, especially for the genre. She first gets kidnapped and she's about to get molested by the bad guy, but in a brief second that he's distracted, she quick draws his pistol from him and knocks him unconscious and escapes. So pretty sick, but she gets caught again. And so Tarzan finally catches up with them and gets the bad guy, and he grabs the bad guy and he's choking him. And Jane's like, no, don't do this. Don't kill him. And Tarzan looks back at her. And this is all off the basis of, in book 2, I believe, there's a bad guy. This may be book 4, but that's neither here nor there. There's a bad guy that Tarzan lets go and turns over to the law. And he goes to jail, but he breaks out and he ends up kidnapping Jane and Tarzan's 1-year-old son, and just takes him on a wild goose chase. And Tarzan says this absolutely badass line, and I wish I had written it down, but I was driving when I was listening to it, so I couldn't. And he says something to the effect of he's choking her, and Jane's like, no, don't kill him. Let law handle this. And Tarzan says, the last time I tried to do that, it caused incredible harm for our family, and I know that I have to have what it takes to end this now so that nothing happens to my family again. He says something like, I let one scoundrel live once and it's done bad things for us, but now I'm going to remove one less scoundrel from the playing field. And he just snaps his neck and tosses him off the boat. And it's like exactly what we're talking about, where there is certainly a line, and I think that it's dependent on the character and on the person whether or not they're willing to cross it, right? Because that's where it comes back to too. Like with Batman, with Daredevil, with the Punisher, all of these are individual men who are different in their own person, right? And for Batman, if he killed somebody, he would lose his identity and would spiral and then become something worse. For Daredevil, I think something similar would happen. It would be so anti to everything else that he holds dear, he would fall apart. And we see something similar to that happen in Daredevil Born Again, where he's like, all right, I got too close, and now I need to stop. I need to reel myself back in because I'm getting out of control. And then there's Punisher, who to some people, he is completely out of control. But to him, he understands that he has a duty to those that he loves who have fallen to stop others from falling. And he's willing to go to whatever means necessary to do that and challenge himself for whatever it takes and willing to take that on. So it is a really, I mean, we could change this to the Should You Kill Bad Guys podcast because it's such a morally compelling and engaging thing. And that's why these stories are so good. I mean, another really good example of it is the Last of Us Part 2 video game, where a character loses a loved one and then they go on a rampage to get retribution. And it just keeps spiraling out of control, and it's a challenging thing. And Matt Helm talks about it all the time. And something that's really good about Matt Helm is that he will just ruthlessly kill people and you're not going to be reading the book and be like, oh crap, this bad guy's probably going to come back in like 2 books and just kill everyone that Matt Helm loves. And you're like, okay, well, he's not, because Matt's just going to kill him by the end of the book, and it's going to be sick. Although, of course, it doesn't get like so formulaic that you're never worried the bad guys are going to return, because they sometimes do. But I think it's really cool to have that aspect of these stories can shift to from like a very like ethereal moral idea to more of a realistic thing, where it's like, I have my morals and I have what I believe, but at this point I just need to do what needs to be done for my family, and I have to live with that. Otherwise, I'm going to have to live with my wife and my kids being dead because I didn't have what it takes to stop the bad guy, you know? So it's a very, very interesting philosophy conversation.
It is.
I like
it's multifaceted and complex, and I don't think there are any easy answers, and I think the show, at least it seems like the show knows that, this Daredevil Born Again, because they're really, at least in these first four episodes, they're really making us examine and question and look at all sides of vigilantism. Like, what is a vigilante? And, like, again, I don't know. We don't want to do spoilers, so I'll be super vague here with this new season. I'll be super vague here. But, like, you have a setup where you're kind of looking at this vigilante thing from this angle, and you're like, oh, yeah. And then they do something that flips it, and you're like, no, I don't like that. Don't do that. And then it's like, but that was the same thing. You're literally this. If you make unilateral decisions, you're a vigilante. You make unilateral decisions. You might like this one, you might not like this one, but this is what, if you like vigilantism, you're saying you like this. And so it makes you question, like, well, I don't like that, so maybe I don't like vigilantism. So I don't know. And so it's very cool that they're doing that. And to the Punisher side of things, I think that's why, to your point, I think this was either before we recorded or while we were recording, I forget. It all blends together. Time gets away from me. But when you were saying, like, I forget if it was about Daredevil or Punisher even, but I don't understand the character fully from where he is in the comics. I will never lie and be like, I know Punisher, because I don't. I know, like, the movie adaptations of him, and I've read 1 or 2 comic arcs of him. So, like, generally who he is at his core and all that, people know that better than me. But I think that's why it works for me in the stories I've seen with him. The Punisher 2004 being my favorite, is that is a very clear line, I think, that you and I at least would agree on, and I think a lot of people who watch it would be like, okay, yeah, you can go kill all of these guys. That sounds good to me. And of course, if he takes it further and starts taking that on as a path, that's a different question. But your whole family gets murdered. There's so many movies like that where it's, okay, now I'm going to kill all of them. And it's just like a revenge thing. And that's why that's where I fell in love with The Punisher, was that concept of just the catharsis of, okay, yeah, he got revenge and that was sweet. And then with the John Bernthal thing, what I loved and how they highlighted it in season 2 of Daredevil is I am huge on everything he was saying of like, don't give them, if they keep proving that it's not going to work out, like I don't give them second chances. I'm putting them down. Like, we're going to solve the problem. He's got like a very, maybe considered nihilistic to a lot of people, nihilistic point of view, or just like realism, depending on where you kind of fall on that of, he's got a hard line. He knows the truth and reality, how grim people can get. But it doesn't go without its flaws too. There's a story that is, I've talked about it before. I'm in therapy for a lot of these things where it's like paranoia and like seeing too much of a negative in people, and that's probably why I identify and like The Punisher. And there's a story that has really intrigued me with The Punisher. I've not gotten my hands on it yet, but I think it's called Punisher, Last Man on Earth or something like that. And I think the concept is he eventually kills everyone out of paranoia. Like he finds a utopia and they're gonna rebuild, but he keeps like, you're gonna do something wrong. He just kills everybody until he's the last guy on Earth. And it's like, okay, I see how if you took it to its logical end, not very good. But all that to say, I more so fall to the Punisher side. I like heroes who put dudes down and don't give them like the over and over. That just drives me nuts, like the over and over thing, dude. It drives me nuts. So I really fall apart with that. But I do love Daredevil's Catholicism in that he has like a strong belief. So I respect that so strongly that I'm not like, I don't like Daredevil. I like that about him.
Right. My brother, to your point, was like, that's a little annoying that this is the third season that we're going to have Fisk as the main bad guy. I was like, yeah, that's a good point. He's just always the bad guy. And it's because Daredevil won't put him down. I remember watching Daredevil season 3 and the way they build up that whole entire fight scene. I have like a Snapchat saved on my phone that I sent to one of my really good friends who got me into watching the show. And it was like, I'm convinced with one episode left that the only way for them to make this story work is for Punisher to show up and kill Bullseye and Fisk, because there's no other way that Daredevil's getting out of this. Because that's to exactly your point. It's like there's really no chance to stop this bad guy, because there is evil in the world. There are people who are like fully gone down the wrong path, and they're doing evil things, and it's not just a mistake. It's a pattern. It's a habit. It's a pattern of darkness and evil, and you gotta put those people down. I mean, it's like you think about too, if, and God forbid any of us ever have to get into an actual gunfight and shoot somebody, but there comes a point where it is a life and death situation, right? It's self-defense, and it's not just self-defense for you, it's self-defense for others. And I think that's something so crazy. I mean, a lot of states have their gun laws, and it's your duty to safely get out of a situation instead of going in to fight the bad guy. But there's other states that say if you think that harm can come to somebody else, you are well within your rights to use lethal force to stop those people from getting harmed or killed. So I think it's really interesting to put that into characters, right? Which makes it so engaging. And talking about using lethal force, dude, the Punisher is so much fun to watch. The fight scenes are really well done. The stories are really cool. Bernthal's character development is so incredible, and him fighting with the bullet that went into his head and wondering if he's like out of control and crazy is interesting, and then him kind of like regrounding himself. Really, really good stuff. But you talk about it all the time, so I had to watch it. The Tom Jane 2004 Punisher, dude, so good, so engaging. Really, really, really fun movie that you said before is just a modern Western, which is a really good point. That's your favorite movie of all time, right? Or one of them?
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, Good Will Hunting's my favorite movie of all time.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah, it flips between that and Everybody Wants Some. Those two
Nice.
are my favorite movies of all time. But it is top 5 favorite movies of all time. Punisher's my favorite character of all time. And when I'm saying that, I'm saying Tom Jane's Punisher, for sure. The first one, or not the first one, because that's Dolph Lundgren, 1989, sorry. But we're going to skip over that one for now.
I did not even know that was a thing until someone talked about it and when you posted on Instagram about it. I had no idea.
He doesn't wear the skull. It's just kind of a generic action movie. It's not horrible or anything. It's just like it didn't have to be the Punisher. It's not really the Punisher that much, you know. He doesn't wear the skull. He has skulls on the skeleton, like on his knives. That's kind of the only indication there. It's okay, but we'll skip it. I haven't seen it in a long time to be able to comment on it.
I haven't seen it at all.
Yeah, so we'll jump to 2004 and say that version is, like I said, modern Western. That's not just me saying that. I used to be obsessed with it, and still am, but I watched like the commentary and stuff from the directors. They were saying that's what they were going for. You've seen it, the duster and like the flapping it open and the revolvers and not the revolvers, but like the, I think it's like a 1911 or something.
Yeah.
And he does like the quick draws and duels and stuff. And it's the Lone Drifter. Instead of a horse, he's got his black, Mustang or GTO or something blacked out. And he's got like it customized to have like the gun shield that slide down.
So good.
So sick. And it's got a very Western, modern Western vibe to it that I obviously appreciate because I love modern Westerns, and Westerns in general is one of my favorite things in the world. But outside of that, it's kind of like a mafia film, which is why my dad loves it and introduced it to me, because he loves mob films. So it's like mafia meets modern Western. Tom Jane gives a really different performance from John Bernthal or any of the other ones, in a way that I think a lot of people don't like his, because it's not comic accurate. It's very different in the fact that I think he's the closest to like a good guy, right? I think a lot of people are like, well, the Punisher's more like hard edged than that. The Punisher's like, and he's not quite that. But he's also directly right after they lost the family. Like it's the actual showcasing of that scenario. So you do get like a really depressed version of the Punisher and really subdued kind of version of the Punisher. But if you guys haven't seen that, Nathaniel made a great point. He thinks like, I'll let you talk about it. The John Wick point you were making and like some of the modern filmmaking techniques, just the action scenes.
Oh yeah.
I'll let you speak to that instead of trying to rehash what you said.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal movie. Very enjoyable. I remember, I don't know what it was, but I never watched Ben Affleck's Daredevil movie, and I never watched any of the Punisher movies. I think in my mind, like, good superhero movies didn't start until Captain America, the first Avenger, or the Batman Begins, I guess would have been before that. So it never was really on my radar, but then you were talking about how great it is. I'm like, well, I love all the stuff Luke recommends, so I'm sure this is going to be awesome. And right after we had our daughter in January, we watched it, and it blew me away. I think before you sent me that fist fight with the Russian guy, right? That's
so good. The Russian.
So good.
That's one of the best fist fights in a movie ever.
Yeah, and this movie really does have a lot of, like, you got to think they probably watched this to do some of the shots for John Wick and all that, because it does what a lot of movies failed to do for a while. I think Bourne introduced a new style with the really choppy, hard to see stuff, but this movie is as far from that as possible. It's very like clear, medium to wide shots, and the close-ups are like good detail shots, but it's focused on showing you the action and letting you see what happens. And to that point, that's why that fight scene, the Russian fight scene, I think works so well, because you're never wondering like, oh, who threw that punch? And also, isn't the Russian wearing like a red shirt?
Yeah, it's like red and white.
Yeah, and he's wearing just like a white shirt, and they look very different. So you're never. I love Skyfall, but I really don't. I'm not a huge fan of that fight scene in, I think it was Shanghai.
There were the lights, and it goes silhouetted, and it's like
and they like I've watched it so many times, and every time I'm like, oh man, Bond's the one who fell off the roof. Like, if I pay attention close enough, I always feel like that's the answer I get every time. And then he's the one who's got the guy at gunpoint, and he's hanging off the roof. I'm like, wait a minute. This movie, none of that's going to happen. You have two very distinct people, and you're watching it, and it's really so sick. Great fight scene. Lots of good action happening there. So yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
I was just say the action in general in that movie, man. I can get hyped about so many of the parts. The don't bring a knife to a gunfight part, and he's just I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't seen it, but he presses that button, the fight's over. But then you got the Russian fight. You got even just like the makeshift. Oh, I got a paper cutter. Oh, now I got a machete the size of like a sword.
Yeah, dude.
You got the bow and arrow kills.
Mm-hmm.
You got the classic loadout scene while he gives one of the most epic speeches. I can't do the actual Latin, but where he's like sic vox parabellum, whatever, and he's like, it means if you want peace, prepare for war. And he's explaining like what he's doing, and he's like, this is my declaration of war, as he's like doing his loadout, taking people out with the bow and arrow, setting the explosions. I love it. And then he goes full tactical, dude. He goes John Wick into that place, with his rifle, and he's clearing it out, doing a knife up through the Gadushi right here, dude. That's terrible.
Yeah, dude.
There's some sweet action in that movie. That's just some of the best action I've seen still to this day. And obviously, I watch a lot of action movies. So
yeah.
That movie holds up. And then jump to 2008. Have you seen that one? Punisher Warzone?
Mm-mm.
I'll be brief about this one and just say again, I'm not a comic expert for The Punisher, but it seems and appears to be the most comic accurate. It's very over the top. It's very pulpy. It's very, like, he punches a hole through a guy's face. Like, let's just put it that way. He just, and then the face just, produce. And I was just like, okay, whoa. It's kind of like that. And there's, the action's just, like, insane. Like, it's over the top. And you're just, whoa. Like, what in the heck did I just watch? But it's also very, very fun. And Ray Stevenson just knocks it out of the park as far as a comic accurate, just brutal, intense, scary Punisher.
Well, that's cool.
And then you've got John Bernthal, which we have already talked about. But I think if we're being fair, and I think it's also because he's had so much time as the guy, he's probably on paper the best. And is crushing it, and he's going to be known as the Punisher. If people are like, who's the Punisher? Most likely people are going to say it's John Bernthal in the future. Because he's had so much time under his belt as the Punisher, and he's crushing it. He's doing a great job.
Yeah. They just got the casting down. They did such a good job with the casting for Daredevil. I mean, Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock and Daredevil is so good. Vincent D'Onofrio as Fisk is
awesome.
Unreal. He's really just perfect. And then I always try to think of like a comic of Punisher, and all I can think of is John Bernthal, because he's just him. But that show, I mean, you brought it up earlier, the prison fight scene is so insane. The fight scene in the gym, and I think it's season 1 or 2, I don't remember which Punisher? One. Yeah.
Season 2, I think.
Yeah, crazy. There's also the scene in the bar that's like the opening episode of season 2. Yep. That one is just nuts. I think he's fighting a girl and a guy, or 2 girls and a guy.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It's just the stunt choreography, stunt coordination for those, incredible stuff.
I love the end fight in season 2 as well.
Yeah, dude, with Pilgrim.
With Pilgrim, and what I love about that fight in particular is something that crops up in a fight every now and again in a movie, but the whole mutual respect thing, where like they were each giving each other time. He's like, "You good?" Yeah, and like they would keep going because they just wanted it to be a fair fight. Who's gonna kill who? But they were being like men about it, for lack of a better way to put it. It was cool.
Gentlemen.
Dude, the chain is involved in it, and just
I know,
brutal fight.
And that's when
the whole series is pretty brutal.
That's when they're shooting through like 2 different apartment walls, right? Or is that an earlier fight? Okay.
This one I feel like was in like a junkyard or something.
Okay, yeah. I think that is a different one. I love the fight scene where they're in the hotel room and they go from like shotguns to pistols to all this stuff, and they're just like on either side of two beds on. It's so good. It's chock full of everything you want from men's adventure fiction. It's so good. And I love, like I said, I love the season 3 fight of Matt, and he's wearing a suit and he gets drugged, and then they have this whole prison fight scene. And something that I always love to talk about with that is the way that they filmed that. Is Charlie Cox was really good at doing a lot of his own stunts and a lot of his own fight scenes, but anything where he took a big fall, they would punch him out of like the frame, and his stunt double would jump in after. It's called a cowboy switch, because that's what they used to do all the time in the old westerns. And then he would get slammed for a really big fall, and he'd go off the frame, and Charlie Cox would come booking back in. So there's probably like 3 or 4 of those in this like 5-minute long one take fight scene, and it's just incredible to witness. Being someone who has done film stuff, it really just is something to aspire to, you know, like all of these fight scenes, watching a perfectly executed fight scene, either with just fists, and I think in the one hallway scene, he has a chain wrapped around his hand, so he uses the chain in the first one. And then with guns and knives, dude, in The Punisher, it's like, man, these shows are a masterclass in how to make good fight scenes. So you could just lock in, and when you're doing your Western short film, fellas, everyone out there in the audience, watch these. Get a little inspiration for how to do a fight scene, especially like the one in the bar is a good one, because bar fights are a classic Western trope. So I think The Punisher is so similar to The Executioner, and it's a bummer that we haven't gotten a real live action Executioner, but for the time being, a man on a mission, a comprehensive man. Well, maybe The Punisher is not quite comprehensive.
One-sided, but he's a tool, a necessary tool, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
A necessary tool to crush evil. He's punishing bad guys, okay? That's what he's for.
All right, dude. Yeah, he's a beast.
I love him.
Great character.
Great. Just both these things are great. You know, if you want more of a traditional superhero story, a little more in the vein of Batman, moral complexities, and some religious aspects and lawyer crime genres, Daredevil is peak. And if you want kind of like a military-inspired, kind of in the vein of Reacher, Jack Carr, Executioner, Lifeblood, Punisher, and they're both top tier in those genres. They're so sick.
For sure.
Because like the first Punisher season was kind of just like a conspiracy thriller, you know, like a conspiracy military thriller, and it does it really well, and it's super sick, and there's a lot of great action in that.
Fairly similar to your point to like a James Reese story, like James Reese's opening story. And then the second one is also really cool. It really leans into the drifter, and he just meets a random girl who's being hunted, and he's like, "Oh, I can't let that slide." Right. So it's just so good. It's
they give him that surrogate kid, you know, since he lost his family. Do that.
Yeah, it's what you want to see, and it's what, and this circles back to what I was saying earlier. Like, I wish that we had more stories like this, either in a superhero like universe or outside of it, because it's just so enjoyable. And I mean the Punisher has at least in the shows we've seen in the movies, I think in the comics he may get some sort of super soldier serum, which makes him more of a superhero, but this is just a dude at the top of his game, absolute machine, who's just able to do whatever it takes, fight people, kick butt, do what he needs to do. So not really a superhero at all, but still so good.
One of the best anti-heroes, dude. Legendary.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's all I've got to say on these two. I mean, you just got the shows speak for themselves. If you guys haven't watched them yet, you're going to be in for some of the fantastic television for the next couple months.
Oh yeah,
it's they're all great. You got 3 seasons of Daredevil, 2 seasons of Punisher, and 1 ongoing season of Daredevil Born Again, right? So what's Born Again?
Yeah, Born Again.
Now let's hope this thing holds up. I guess let's close it out in this way. What is kind of your take on this new season so far? Kind of the same question we asked with the Spencer Dutton 1923 thing.
Mm-hmm.
What's your hopes, dreams, and then fears for this season, if any? Where are you at with this new season?
I'm really enjoying it so far. I found that it's been very compelling while not having a ton of action, which I think is a really good thing to see. Obviously, I love the action, and that's what I prefer to watch to the most part. But to have a compelling narrative that involves courtroom drama, but also involves these moral conundrums that we talked about, it's really, really cool to see, to be watching something that is, and this once again goes back to what you were saying earlier, like a lot of people are here for the action, but you get sucked into this story. That's like, okay, well, what is the place of a vigilante when the police are corrupt and the system is broken and the mayor is Wilson Fisk, the worst person to ever exist? So it's really cool to have this all kind of like simmering. I was not a fan of the heavy CGI use that happened in the first fight scene. I'll have to rewatch that scene again because it really kind of like turned me off, and I was like had a hard time paying attention to the rest of the fight scene. But it was a sick scene after that. I mean, he had like 15 throwing knives in him, and he was still just yeah, he was still just killing it. A little bit of a hallway scene we had there. So that was really cool, but I'm hoping that's just a taste of what's to come for the cool parts, and that they read the room on everybody hating the CGI and get rid of that. For maybe that's, they're in the middle right now. The past like 3 weeks they've been on the cutting room floor redoing all the CGI stuff. So we'll see. Hopefully it stays strong. I hope the Punisher comes back, makes another appearance somehow. That would be really sick.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, very similar. So I won't take up too much of the listeners' time because it's along the same lines of, I think knee-jerk reaction is, oh, this feels a little slow-paced, but then I realize it's really not, because to your point, I'm never like, oh, I'm bored, I don't want to watch this. That happens in some of the 1923 episodes for me. I'm like, I don't want to watch this. It's not it's not driving things forward. This is more of a deliberate pace. Like, they want it to be this pace for a reason, and I'm liking every second of it. It's deepening the story, it's deepening the conflict. Of course, it's not the action-adventure, super high stakes, fight scenes like we would maybe prefer, but they're doing what they want to do, and they're doing it well. They're executing it, and I really appreciate that about it. And I guess I'm optimistic about where things are going to go, based on that last sequence with him and Frank Castle. That was awesome. Yeah. I think that was mirroring the rooftop scene and kind of being like a miniature version of that for the people who haven't seen the Netflix show. And my hope is that Punisher is like a huge part of it. If not, I think Daredevil is going to reveal himself soon, and this season could kick some butt. So I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic because I haven't been too excited about a lot of Disney projects in a while, but doesn't mean they can still produce something very sick. So
right,
cautiously optimistic. Let's see what happens. I'm pumped. I've heard one of the episodes I've heard about sounds absolutely incredible. I won't say it here. If you want to hear about it afterwards, we can talk about it.
Okay.
I heard this thing is just incredible, so I cannot wait for that. And I think it might be the next episode or the next episode. So we are close to that, and I'm pumped. Maybe we'll have to talk about it if it happens and it is as cool as they say. Do a little end segment on it.
Yeah, that'll be sick. I think that you really summed that up very well, because the writing seems very similar to the writing that was done in the first 3 seasons, but I think they shifted it. Usually, for me, I always felt that the middle of the season kind of lagged a little bit. So the first 2 or 3 episodes was like, oh, rip roar and action, and then they kind of slow it way down to develop the actual story. But this one, they seem to be developing the story and peppering in action. So it's already slowed down. So hopefully they just are keeping that thing where there's going to be a couple slow episodes, and then it's just going to be rip roaring out. So if that's what they do, then I think we have 5 more episodes of just nuts action, dude. So we'll see. I'm very excited about it. I was thinking for end segment is since we've now touched on heroes, superheroes, what give a recommendation of, other than these two, some of the most men's adventure fiction superheroes you got?
Okay.
I've got one in mind.
Yeah,
If you, all right.
I need a second to wrap it.
Yeah, sorry, I'm springing this on you. The first one that comes to mind for me, and this would be across the board, but also in film, would be Captain America. It's the low hanging fruit, but Captain America: First Avenger. I know you said this on an episode months ago. You were like, yeah, Captain America: First Avenger is literally just a pulp movie, and I think that those movies are so good because they are grounded. They don't rely as heavily on CGI. All three of them are pretty solid. One is really good. Two is really good. Three is also good, but it's a little more disheartening because of the rift between it's Civil War, so that's challenging. But what I like about those movies is that they really are just spy movies of specific eras thrown into this superhero world. And I felt like it was the heart and soul of the whole Avenger arc, the what was it called? The Infinity Saga.
Infinity Saga, yeah.
Yeah. I felt like that's what grounded it, because now you don't have anyone who punches. You have all these people that are just CGI heavy, and it's such a bummer to have. But I felt like those movies kind of stood on their own as high concept spy thrillers or action adventure stories, but they were set in a superhero world, but they didn't rely on because he's another example of just like his superpower is being peak human physical fitness across the board. So it really is like this. It's not attainable, but it also is like I could really train really hard, and maybe I could be like Captain America.
Yeah, it's like the Doc Savage effect, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess neither of these are going to be, mind-altering, like, oh, I never heard of that one.
Uh-huh.
But the two that come to mind, I'll go with the slightly more obscure and then the super mainstream. Slightly more obscure has become very mainstream lately, which is The Crow, the original.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Series, and the Brandon Lee one from like 1994 or something like that. But the reason I bring that one up is I've always loved, from a writer's standpoint, the creation of that graphic novel, the original one, where his wife was killed by a drunk driver or something, I believe, and he had so much grief surrounding that, and he was so distraught because he just lost his wife, or maybe his fiance or something, and he wrote this story as like a catharsis and mental health rehabilitation for himself. So I loved where it came from, and you're never gonna get something more raw and emotional than that.
Yeah.
So you read that graphic novel, it's super powerful, and especially with that knowledge, it hits so hard. And then that Brandon Lee adaptation is sweet. It's like a cool gothic. I like to watch it around Halloween, like a very gothic,
cool.
Halloween-y, intense action revenge thriller. With definitely it's supernatural. Like he comes back from the dead and there's a crow with him, so it's not at all grounded, but it's very cool, very stylistic, and a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Outside of that, dude, super easy. Thor, but I'm saying rewatch the first Thor movie.
Okay.
Because it's full on mythology, full on taking itself super seriously. It's very earnest, very pulp and men's adventure fiction in that aspect of it's got a lot of roots in sword and sorcery.
Yeah.
They show war, happening on these other realms
that's a good
and
one.
stuff. Shakespearean language and stuff. It's sick. So rewatch the original Thor too. That's what I would say.
Yeah, dude, that's a good choices, man.
Thanks. I was worried. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know anybody.
Yeah, that's
I gotta get up to date on superheroes. Craven, dude. Why did I not mention him? Go watch Craven.
Craven, yeah.
Movie, dude. People
Very
have
cool.
been certain friends of mine have been absolutely roasting me, and some don't believe me that I love it. But that is one of my favorite movies of the year, dude. I love that movie. And my dad did too, so I have at least one other person I know who loves it.
I have yet to watch it, but
It's on Netflix now.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
I'll have to add that to the list.
Same with Den of Thieves Pantera, dude. Came out to Netflix yesterday, I think.
I thought it was coming out soon. I looked it up the other day, and it was doesn't release till later it might have been March 20th, which would make sense. Perfect. Me and Caroline got some movies to watch. It's going to be a good time. Cool, man. Good episode talking about moral conundrums and quagmires and two of the greatest TV characters of all time and comic book characters of all time.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us. That was fun. A little different for us. And nerve-wracking for me to talk about my favorite characters. It's one of those conundrums where as soon as you start talking about something you really like, your mind goes blank. Like, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know where to go with this. But I love the Punisher, so I'm happy to be able to talk about him.
Well, thank you for introducing me to Punisher 2004. What a great movie. So if you haven't seen that, watch that. And then, like Luke said, if you haven't seen the TV shows, check them out. And I'm going to check out the Ray Stevens, not Stevenson, right?
It's Stevenson, I think.
All right, Ray Stevenson. I'll check out The Warzone sometime.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.
Take care, guys.